Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
It's a blessing to be in this position, and we're just thankful to be here. We're thankful to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the 12 man.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies. "31 runs. I think I got that right. In the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Sam Houston, Tennessee.
I have to be honest. I don't know what Sam Houston's program is now. I know historically,
Yep.
it's a very sound college baseball program.
Well, I think, and by the way, I'm talking about Aggie baseball winning yesterday 14-1 in 7 innings. I think that the point I kind of want to make from this is there was a point early in this season where the midweek games felt like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And I believe they've won 4 straight midweek games. It might be 6, actually. 6 straight midweek games. Nick, you can fact check me on that. And those aren't, they don't seem like the same concern that they did early. And big picture wise, I'm not saying everything's been cured with Aggie baseball, right? I'm definitely not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just do feel better about their mindset going into a game, into a series.
Yeah. So 6 games, 6 midweek games. I think the thing about that midweek game we got last night that got my attention even more than the 14 runs was the 1 run allowed.
Yeah.
Because
that was early, by the way.
Midweek first or second inning. The midweek pitching has been suspect, but again, is it another indication that this team has found itself? I think we get that answer this weekend.
Yeah.
But hey, celebrate every win.
Yeah, well, a couple of notes from this game. A&M 14 hits with 5 runs in 5 consecutive innings. I like when they score multiple innings, though. But I think you do too, right? Wyatt Hensler, 3 for 3, 2 doubles. Caden Sorrell, 3 for 3, a double, 2 RBIs, 2 walks. He reached base on all 5 plate appearances.
What? No home runs?
Yeah, I know.
I'm just expecting a home run.
Slacker. Let's see. Multi-hit games for Hensler, Sorrell, Bear Harrison, Terrence Keel, the second who was here yesterday. Aggie pitchers combined for 12 strikeouts in 7 innings.
Some of those guys that they brought in are really starting, like Bear Harrison, to be consistent. I think Terrence Keel's been pretty consistent all year, and Hensler too. So, if they get some guys back, and maybe, like a Cash, maybe he'll start playing when he gets back from injury. Maybe we'll see him start developing more of the player that he was in Lubbock last year.
What I really look, I think we're going to be walking on eggshells even if they win the next couple of series, right? Like because of the deficit that they put themselves in. It's still not going to it may be. We may feel better, like, hey, they're starting to play some better baseball, but like the ultimate goal is a national championship. I think the near goal, the goal that they're focusing on now is just one game at a time, right? But we as analysts, the goal would be, can you get into the postseason after the way your season started?
Yes.
And then if you can, huge if with what's ahead, right? Not to remind you guys, after South Carolina, there's still Murder's Row right after that, right? But if you're able to do that, quote unquote if, that would mean that this team is playing very high-level baseball, which would say, all right, let's say they have to go to another regional. You do not want to face A&M, brother.
Right, because they will all of a sudden they will be looking like that team everyone thought they were. And that's what we've seen since Saturday. We've seen the team everyone thought they were. But we got to make sure this is an oasis and not a mirage.
Right. Yeah. Look, I don't want to say I don't believe. I don't want to say I fully believe. I'm going to enjoy the ride as long as they keep making it interesting. And last weekend was more than interesting, right? I don't expect them to dismantle Arkansas, Texas, everybody, LSU left, right? But make it interesting, and everything around here feels just a little bit better.
Yeah, and if you can go out and, hey, you just won a series at Tennessee. Why is it so outrageous to think, hey, maybe they can win all those series?
I'm gonna look at it one game at a time,
That's
one
right.
series at a time.
As you should.
But there's the SEC standings. But A&M in 13th, trying to move on up. Let's get on the left side of that bracket.
Yeah, let's get on the left side and keep climbing.
Yeah, let's do that. Hey, typically when Paul Feinbaum talks about A&M, what do you think? It's not unfavorable. It's not usually favorable either, right? It's like...
Yeah, I think Paul Feinbaum thinks that, and maybe rightly so, that A&M and sports is like going to 31 flavors and ordering vanilla.
Okay.
It's good. It's okay.
But
it's nothing that you get really excited about. I mean, it's good.
Would you guess that he was a yay for Bucky?
Oh, I would.
Or was he like, I don't know?
No, I would guess, because of his background in Alabama and the people then that are telling him stuff, if he doesn't already know, being from Alabama, that he is wholeheartedly endorsing Bucky McMillan.
What do you think Jay Billis is thinking?
Probably gives it a maybe not as hearty of endorsement, but probably is a positive outlook. If nothing else, if for no other reason, I always say, when do you ever hear Jay Billis say something bad about coaches, media, and he's not a coach, but
he doesn't speak bad about him.
Yeah, they rarely will say anything.
I'm going to tell you what they both think, all right?
But you know what's the old thing, like your grandma used to tell you, if you can't say something nice, just don't say nothing at all.
Yeah, you should.
So maybe
that should be the way we type as well. Here's Paul Feinbaum on Bucky McMillan. The easy answer is Texas A&M. I think A&M today sits in a much better position with Bucky McMillan to get to a Final Four than it did under Buzz Williams.
I agree with that.
And I know it's easy to pile on Buzz after he left. He was a good coach. Good. He wasn't a great coach.
Vanilla.
He could take you to the tournament. He might win you a game. He wasn't going to get you too much further than that. And I think Bucky McMillan has a chance to completely be an absolute game changer in the SEC.
Yeah, has a chance.
Very favorable review.
So, yeah, we'll take that.
I'm going to tell you a little bit more of what he says.
Okay.
Anybody who's been up and close with Bucky McMillan the last however many years at Mountain Brook, and obviously the last couple of years at Sanford, understands what we're saying, and that's okay. I don't need to convince A&M fans because they were more hung up on their athletic director the other day. He was running coaches off. Instead, he went and to me and made one of the best coaching hires I've seen in many, many years.
Well, we'll see. Look, I did this. I went back and looked what Sanford was before.
They were horrible.
I think they had a 20-15 season like in 2015. Okay. Other than that, I think their best season was like 17 and 16, and typically
under 500.
Oh, way under 500,
yeah.
under 400 typically. So he took over a mess of a program and won or shared 3 straight conference championships. That's not easy to do.
Jay Billis, would you like to hear what he had to say?
Jay Billis, let's hear what Jay said.
I'm not surprised because of what Pete Thamel said, talking about Buzz leaving. Sort of the nature of Buzz Williams, every 5 or 6 years, there's a change in his college coaching career. But when you think about what Nate Oates, where he was 10, 12 years ago, he was a head coach in Detroit at Romulus High School. Then he goes to Buffalo as an assistant to Bobby Hurley, takes over the head coaching job. Now he's killing it at Alabama, one of the most respected coaches in the game. When you're the real deal, it doesn't take long for people to figure it out. And I think Bucky McMillan is an outstanding basketball coach. It's going to be a challenge going to the SEC and doing extraordinarily well, but he's certainly got the resources at A&M to do it.
I keep hearing that he has the resources at A&M to do it.
People, I think, confuse football with everything else.
Yeah.
And by the way, A&M has great resources across the board, yes. But it's not the same treasure chest that we have in football.
Yeah, so are they going to put the resources into basketball? That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would assume they probably promised him they would. And that's one of the reasons why I took the job.
Yeah.
I'm sure they promised Chris Beard that they would. So I think if you're going to play, especially in a revenue-producing sport, if you are going to play to win.
Yeah.
And whatever that entails.
I don't know if I can wait 3 years for a good program. But
Maybe
I
have to wait 2.
I hope I just have to wait. I hope I don't have to wait at all.
I hope so, but we have to be realistic.
At last check, I don't think they have any players still, right? Like, I don't think anybody has.
What, did McDermott leave too?
No, well.
We got McDermott. I love that kid, by the way. I don't even know him, but he's apparently staying, and that in itself should make him, at the very least, highly appreciated.
Yeah. Hey, this is TexAgs Live. Hello, everybody. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, and we are currently hanging out at the Holistic Planning
Cool Zone.
It's cool. Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
What do they do there?
A lot of cool stuff, because all the cool things you really want to do typically, not always, but typically take some money. And I think making money is cool, because you can do cool things when you do. And some of the things you can do to help you get that money is you can go to Holistic Planning, and they can help you with your investments.
Yep.
They can help you with your taxes. We're a week away now, so you can keep more of that money.
Yeah.
And of course, they're going to help you with your estate planning. So when you get old like me, you have some money. And part of the way, if you are so inclined to get that money, is to invest in pro sports.
I would like the opportunity to invest in prosports.com. Like going to that website and then investing. I would like to do
What protein do you want to invest in?
I'm really big on beef.
Beef.
All kinds of beef.
All kinds of beef.
Yeah. Where's the beef? Remember that lady?
Yeah, from Wendy's.
Yeah.
So what pro sport is recognized with the beef? Cowboys?
You know what? The Texans.
The Texans, they got a bull.
It represents all
They got a bull on their helmet.
Yeah. Let's go around the room and talk to people. Can we do that?
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can do it. You can call us. You can text
Chicago
us.
Bulls?
Sure. If I had another investor to help me out, I would invest in pro sports with the Bulls.
Okay.
But call us up on the Buppy's Catering Hotline, 979-693-1150. You can text that number as well. We go behind the glass, left to right. We say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, what up?
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
Hello.
Well, throughout the past week, Aggie baseball, 7 days have increased their RPI 52 spots. They're up to 60 now in the country, which, again, I know we're talking about it's going to take a run, but a series win at Tennessee, the number 1 team in the country, a 3-game winning streak, starting to build a little momentum on that front. And again, you got to capitalize on an unranked South Carolina coming into your place this weekend and just keep building on that.
All that
RPI.
goodwill. I'm sorry, Nick. All that goodwill, does it go away if you lose the series to South Carolina?
Yeah, probably.
South Carolina is 39th in the RPI, by the way, so that would be another, thing to build that resume.
It probably does, because once again, anybody can have a good week. Seems like, I know A&M lost the series last year to a struggling LSU team.
Yep.
Right? It seems like, once a year, a really good program can trip.
Yep.
You don't want that to be what just happened. You want it to be, A&M, they went out and beat and bludgeoned Tennessee. But let's don't look at it, hopefully in a week, we're not looking at it like, hey, they had a good week or Tennessee had a bad week. No, A&M righted the ship and came together and became the team we thought they would be.
By the way, if A&M was the team we thought they would be when they were the number 1 team in the country, these next few series would have been toss-ups anyway.
That's true.
But you would have
been favored.
Yes, but going on the road to Arkansas, going on the road to Texas, as if those teams are who they are right now, right?
Yeah,
we knew this was a hard schedule.
Yeah, it's not ever supposed to be easy.
Yeah. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kaylee Dreyer is in the house. Hello, Kaylee.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Tell us something good.
So looking over to softball, KK DeMint was named SEC Co-Player of the Week yesterday, and it marks the first career weekly honor for her and Texas A&M's 5th of the season. Over the weekend, she hit 6 for 10 with 2 home runs, one being a grand slam, 1 double, and 10 RBIs. She's the first Aggie freshman to earn Player of the Week recognition since Bree Warren in 2021.
You like to say that name, KK DeMint, don't you?
I want to say, she needs to have her own cheering section, and they say, "Get demented."
Get demented. I don't know if I want that shirt, but maybe I might get that shirt. Yeah. Well,
with a picture of her hitting a grand slam.
Get demented. Yeah. I like that. What else do you have for us, Kaylee?
So the number 20 Texas A&M women's golf team won by a historic 38 shots at the 2025 Memorial Invitational.
The Mo.
They took home their first win this season and broke the previous 25-shot margin of victory record in that invitational.
We're going to have Gary Chadwell in studio tomorrow. We're also going to have...
What?
Tomorrow. Yeah. Mark Weaver.
The Dream Weaver.
The Dream Weaver. So that's tomorrow at I think 10 and 10:20 tomorrow, if you're getting prepared for those interviews. Today on the program, we did the old switcheroo. Are you familiar with John Harris?
Yeah.
He's going to join us at 8:35.
Okay,
we'll talk to John Harris. Bronny at 9.
Okay.
The 4x400 relay team.
Yeah.
Okay. All the names, all 4 of them, they'll be here at 9:20. Okay.
So you got the big guys out front.
Yeah.
And then the fast guys, kind of like offensive line and
after those guys.
Yeah.
Trisha Ford.
Oh my.
10 o'clock. Do you want to know who?
Who?
HC.
Who?
HC.
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 Okay.
Head coach. Henry Coleman.
Oh, okay.
Henry Coleman in the studio. All right.
The soon to be.
He could be athletic director. He could be president. He could be a lot.
He'll probably start out with the senator. I just wonder which state he'll run in.
Entrepreneur, then senator. Yeah. So we got HC coming in, Henry Coleman, and then at 10:35, Kendall Rogers.
Okay.
I hope he's kind of changed his mind on A&M. I don't think he's completely changed his mind, but I hope he has.
Again,
evidence. We need more.
We got more evidence, right?
Yeah, we need more evidence. We'll hit a break. We will come back. I want to get into a story that you wrote that was published yesterday. Right now, 1775.
Yeah, 1775.
When I say 1775, sometimes we joke around, but we actually mean what we're saying. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're very serious. What would be the middle version of that? Kind of crazy, but very serious. Find me in the middle.
Seriously, I'm crazy about 1775 barbecue. I love.
You're demented about it.
I am. I'm going to go out there whenever I go, and I'm going to eat myself into dementia. Because let me tell you something. I mean it. I'm not just saying. I'm not getting paid to saying this. I'm telling you the truth. I wouldn't lie to you. That brisket.
Wouldn't lie.
I'm not a liar. I'm a lot of bad things, but I'm not that.
This is true.
The brisket's excellent.
Yep.
It's succulent. It's wonderful. I love that jalapeno cheese sausage. I'm a pork ribs guy. The pork ribs are outstanding.
They're thebomb.com.
They're all that. Turkey's good. The queso mac and cheese. Everybody likes mac and cheese, but this queso mac and cheese.
Can you be friends with somebody who doesn't like mac and cheese?
I can probably not.
Yeah.
But you pick it up that cheese. Sometimes it just kind of
falls.
It slides off. No. This cheese clings to the macaroni. It clings because it's so
like a clinger, like
Corporal
cuddler.
No, yeah. It's kind of like
she won't leave.
It's kind of like when I come home. The wife can't keep her hands off me. It's the same thing. It just clings to it.
Slappy.
And it's outstanding.
1775, TXBBQ.com, 979-492-6241 at 1775. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie land since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. David Nuño, Olin Buchanan on TexAgs Live.
Yep, here we are.
Obi, I read your story yesterday on Chad. I thought it was a beautiful story.
Well, thank you.
And
he was a beautiful guy.
And I'm going to pay you a compliment here because I'm not surprised. And for those who haven't read it, Obi will give you a little bit of the background on it, but I highly suggest you go to texags.com and read it. But I'm not surprised that he texted you afterwards because one thing that I've always told you is how easygoing, easy to talk to you are. You come across, like Bucky yesterday, was it yesterday or at the press conference 2 days ago? You know, you guys are going to be my friends. You can call me Bucky. People call you OB. Like, yeah. I think a lot of it has to say it's about how approachable you are. And also, I think Chad being the same way, and that's why you guys developed the friendship.
Yeah. So I met Chad when I went to, when I was looking to buy a truck. And he was working as a car dealership in Hutto. And at the time, he's an Aggie. Well, he didn't finish at A&M. He came here, walked on, and then, didn't work out. Things happened. So, but he
rooted A&M.
Oh, with that, I mean, he's Aggie through and through. And he was a TexAgger, very faithful TexAgger. Always watched the show, and he was putting an ad on our premium forum, say the deal of the week or the deal of the month. I can't remember, but anyway, so I thought, well, I'll go out there and check it out. So I called him, made a appointment, got out there, and this bear of a man. He had played offensive line for the 1997 Granger Class 1A state championship team that I covered for the Statesman. I didn't remember him from that, but he told me all. And within 10 minutes, we were like old friends. He's telling me all these stories about himself and asking me about A&M football and what direction's going. What is Lucci saying about this? What's Lucci saying about that? And I gave him my number. Hey, if you get in touch with me, I'll get in touch with you about the trucks or whatever. And he got in touch with me, but it was to ask more questions about A&M sports.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that we might have saw each other once after that. And I didn't buy the car there because I found my truck. I found a better deal in town. And I remember calling him up thinking, okay, I got to tell him. He was so cool about it. Yeah, well, I'd have taken that deal too.
Yeah.
And he had his wife, Brenda, he loved to talk about her. He had 2 daughters. He had 2 dogs. He'd tell them about that. And I mean, he was a family man through and through, just a good guy that loved Texas A&M sports. And we'd be going into the post-game press conference, and he'd be texting me. I'm like, dude, not now. But I always would respond the first opportunity I got because he was everything that your completely invested Aggie is. And he had to work around a bunch of people in Austin, so they were a bunch of Texas fans. So he'd tell me about how I have to live with those damn Longhorns, but they were his friends.
Yeah, of course.
And since I wrote the article, even before when I met some people, nobody did not like this guy. He was that, like I said, this bear of a man, probably about 6'4", about 260, and just happy and smiling. And then we found out, I don't know if it was a year or 2 ago, that he had cancer. He was going through chemo, and he was updating on his Facebook. He stopped texting as much, even though he texted me about 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was about A&M sports. I think it was about basketball.
Yep.
And but I keep up with him and sending every now and then some messages of try to be encouraging, and he sounded very upbeat through everything.
Good.
Oh, today's a bad day, but tomorrow's going to be better. And hey, saw my daughter, and then he became more philosophical. Tell him, he was commonly, hey, he'd make a text and then say, hey, or a message, a post on Facebook, and then like, hey, do something nice for somebody you don't know today. That was kind of his deal. And, we were hopeful. And I know his family obviously was. And then apparently I heard from his wife's cousin. And I got a text from him, I think it was Sunday night, saying, he passed away Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. And he got up, and I don't know all the details, but apparently he fell down. And by the time they called the paramedics, by the time they got there, he was already gone. Mm. And it was just as a dad, your heart goes out because, he leaves 2 daughters that are teenagers, and, how hard it is for them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're the same, and I'm sure every parent that's hearing me is the same. I often would pray, Lord, just let me last long enough to get my son into adulthood. Mm-hmm. And, I know that was so important to him. So he was a good man, and we're going to miss him.
Well, I thought you were right. Your story was beautifully written, and I felt like I knew him afterwards. So thanks for writing that. All right, I'm gonna change the gears here before we go to John Harris. I'm gonna go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Let's get worked up, shall we, Kaylee? Can you read the Jerry text?
Yes.
Jerry, I don't know if Jerry's trying to be a funny guy or a mean guy. We're about to find out. Okay, I'm gonna let you be the. You're gonna decide.
Jerry says, hey guys, good morning, David. You said you couldn't wait 3 more years for another basketball team to do well. Well, you've been waiting your whole life for the football team to do well. Thank you.
No, that's not.
I think he's trying to be a funny guy.
Yeah, because that's not true. I mean, we've just haven't had the consistency.
Yeah. Look, I'm sorry.
2020
wasn't. It was a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
And by the way, what is the equivalent? So if I thought Buzz did well, what is the equivalent in football terms? 8-4.
Yeah.
Well, a 1 win in the NCAA tournament to me is kind of like an 8-4 year where you go to a nice
maybe 9-3. Maybe
64 teams are in that part of the tournament.
I know, but yeah, I mean, we could.
Where were they? The 5th best team in the SEC, the historically greatest.
I mean, they finished. Okay, put it this way: they finished supposedly 19th in the country, right? Yeah. And if you're 9-3,
you're 19th.
You're probably 19th.
Yeah. That's good. So, Jerry, I think you're being funny. No, in my lifetime, we have not reached the pinnacle. You're absolutely right. We've had some awesome seasons that I've gotten to watch, from the Bucky days to the Johnny days to the Kellen days, and I'm hoping the Elko days.
Yeah. I have this feeling, the more I delve into the season, that there's, quote, a chance. You can say, yeah, there's always a chance. There's a chance I might win the lottery. I think they got a chance to have a good year this year, a big year. But it's so much, to me, in my opinion, dependent on the progress they make defensively. And part of my optimism stems from the fact that Elko says he's going to be more involved, and they've brought in guys, and we don't know if these guys are going to be good, but we don't know if they're not.
Right.
So it's a wait and see. I'm not ready to predict a big year, but I keep thinking, with a couple of guys coming through, this could be a good year.
Dave Wilson, our buddy, wrote a story on R.C. Slocum.
He's an East Texas guy. Dave.
I have not read it yet, but I know it's apparently awesome.
I read it. It was.
It's awesome. So we'll get Dave on the show next week. We'll chat with him about that. I think he's at the Masters this week.
Oh, tough
must
assignment.
Be nice. I don't know if he's there for work or for fun. Either way, it must be nice.
Oh, I'm sure he's there for work.
Yeah. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back and we'll talk to Johnny Harris. Bird Dog, Aggie owner and operated company. They create access to hunting opportunities. I want you to think of them as a Airbnb for hunting. So if you're into hunting, you got some buddies you like to go hunting, and every year you got a couple of trips that you guys line up together, let them do all the logistics for you, where all you have to do is go and have fun. You go there, you chill, you get the private chef, you get the concert, you get the awesome hunting experience. They can do that all for you. If you're a landowner, they can make your land a place that hunters go hunt at, right? Like you want to make money on your land, that's one way to do it. The other way is to optimize those tax benefits, and they certainly can help you do that. Some of their clients are earning an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land because they're just finding those benefits for them, and you don't have to run hunts on your land for the Bird Dog to help you. All you need to do, be a landowner that runs cattle or farming on your land. The website, birddogit.com. Birddogit.com. Do me a favor, check it out. And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. David Nuño, Olin Buchanan. Let's go to the Buppies Catering Hotline. We're joined by John Harris, Houston Texans sideline reporter and founder of FootballTakeover.com. Johnny, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, gentlemen. OB, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hey, buddy, I'll start things off with, I guess now it's old news because it's Wednesday, but I know you didn't go to the University of Houston, but you got a lot of Houston, not only connections because you've lived there most of your life, but a lot of friends. What did you think of the game on Monday night?
Oh, man, I think everybody in this city is still just recovering from that gut punch. And, you know, this is a city that has had, when you say to somebody, hey, tell me about being a Houston fan, and I moved here in 1983. So just after the very first time I was ever in Texas, I watched with some my dad's friends, NC State beat Houston, and then that fall we moved to Texas, and then we watched Georgetown beat Houston the following year. And I'm like, okay, well, look, it's University of Houston. They'll be back. They'll win one. Well, 41, 42 years later, now they got a shot again with a team that I think everybody resonated with, especially in college sports. It's a team that guys grew up in that program for the most part. Juwan Roberts had been there 6 years. They were kind of the anti-NIL team in a sense. And after beating Duke on Saturday, it felt like, man, this is it. Kelvin Sampson gets win number 800. City of Houston can celebrate a championship. But I knew Florida was good. Florida was my pick to win it all. I love Walter Clayton Jr. And after a 0-point first half, I just felt like, you know what? This guy's too good. I'm worried about him in the second half. And he played his guts out in the second half. And look, Florida's a really good basketball team. You guys saw that. The SEC was a really good conference all year. I mean, it was the best conference. But I felt like Houston had a team that was it was right there on the cusp. And to not get a shot off on the final possession. In fact, the last 4 possessions, they didn't get a shot off. And you just wonder how much of that was fatigue, how much of that was the pressure of the moment. It goes with history of being a Houston fan. You can recite the losses more than you can the great wins. Everybody, even before me, the Love You Blue years. Then Houston losing to NC State, the next year to Georgetown, the 86 Mets. All these losses that you can recite, you just throw that one, another log on the fire. And I just hope that my organization doesn't end up that way down the road. Just nothing but getting close, but not getting over the top. And they had such a great year. And I think it's still 48 hours or so since. It's still, I think, difficult for a lot of people. And Emmanuel Sharp's unfortunately going to live with that. And hopefully, I hope he has his Fred Brown moment. Nobody knows who Fred Brown is. 1982, playing for Georgetown. Mm-hmm. He threw the ball away against North Carolina after Michael Jordan hit the shot. 2 years later, playing for Georgetown, he led them to win against Houston for a championship. So hopefully Emmanuel Sharp can have that moment next year with a really good recruiting class and another year of Kelvin Sampson.
Hey, John, the NFL draft's in about 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So what can happen for the Texans to make in the draft to make the Houston the fans of Houston, the city of Houston, start feeling good again?
Well, I think the draft party, and it's a great question because we go through this all the time. And I remember in 2019, we were just talking about this last night. 2019, the Texans drafted Titus Howard from Alabama State, and the draft party, I looked at one another like, who? And he's an offensive lineman. So you talk about lack of sexiness, but Titus has been a solid player for us, signed a second contract, and much better than the guy that everybody actually wanted. It was Andre Dillard out of Washington State. So I think from a fan standpoint, they would love a Matthew Golden from Texas, sexy, fast wide receiver. Like, yeah, you can get behind that. I think if they drafted Grace Abel from North Dakota State, we've talked about him enough in Houston. I think people will be okay. I've heard John and them talk about him. I think he's a good player, but I think an offensive lineman just lacks sexiness. But if it's a receiver or maybe even a defensive lineman that's got like really good film, exciting, kind of sacks and things like that, I think fans can get behind that. And obviously local players always resonate. And that's why Matthew Golden is, one of those kind of guys because he's not only is he fast, does he play a sexy receiver position like receiver, but he's from Klein, and he's been a Texans fan his whole life. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State went to Bel Air Episcopal. He's been a Texans fan, plus C.J. Stroud, played behind him for a couple of years. So there's that. If it ends up being a guy like Derek Harmon from Oregon, a defensive lineman that really probably nobody in Houston ever watched, I think there'll be this, okay, I guess. So I think proximity, geography, sexy positions, the Texans kind of need those. They need a wide receiver. Does that happen in round one? I think that's the question mark. So we'll find out. But I think the fans of Houston, at least the ones that are interested in the draft, they've heard us talk about Grace Abel, Tyler Booker, Donovan Jackson. They've heard us talk about those guys, Kelvin Banks Jr. So they're going on YouTube and trying to see what they can find out about them so they kind of know when the name is called that they can have a decent idea of who that player is. So I think there's an opportunity for a little bit of sexiness on Thursday night, but y'all know me. I'm not the beacon of sexiness. I just would like somebody that, is a good leader and is kind of swarmy. It plays a lot of grit and a lot of grime. I would like that at pick number 25.
David, I always say offensive linemen are like tires on. You can put some tires on a really sleek, sexy car.
Right.
That car isn't sexy if those tires aren't working.
Right.
If you don't have the tires, no one ever brags about their tires until you don't have them.
This is 100% true. Hey, Johnny, I saw Shamar Turner had a visit with the Texans. How possible is that connection?
Possible. Highly possible. I would love that connection. I think he would give us something that we've got a little bit of, but I think he's got a different level of explosiveness and twitch that we don't have. Like, we have guys his size, but I don't know that we have anybody with his sort of movement skills and agility. And I think that would be a fantastic pick. If you told me we're getting Shamar Turner at 58, I'd probably give you a kiss on the cheek, and you know what that's worth. So I would love it. I think it would be a great fit. Like Olin said, it's special teams, offensive linemen are kind of the same way. It's like nobody realizes that you don't have a good unit or a good team, and then they look up and go, oh man, your offensive line stinks. Or special teams, oh my God, that cost us the game. It's those kind of things that you'd like for that to all be anonymous, living in anonymity. But when you start learning about them, you realize, oh my God, they're not that good. So look, if we went offensive line, defensive line with the first two picks, and I don't know what offensive lineman, Kelvin Banks, Texas, and then Shamar Turner in the second round, rock on. I would love that. I just think that level of burst and explosiveness. And I was watching, I think it was the LSU game the other day. Shamar's got sorry way of saying this. He plays with a little bit of an edge, and I love that.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I know he's got to keep it under control. But he plays with a little bit of an edge. I'll take that. So
I know a certain Ole Miss offensive lineman that would say he plays with a little bit more than an edge. Do you remember that?
I do. And that LSU game, Johnny, I think they almost got, was it the LSU game? They almost got into a fight before the game? I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's sometimes I think some of that's posing, okay. But I think the play on this defense in Houston, you got to have a little bit of that. I mean, the defensive linemen that the Texans have, when you think about Danico Autry and Mario Edwards Jr. and Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, I mean, those guys have that. They play with that. And I think Shamar, you walk in that room, he's got a little DeSoto in him, so I think that will show up in a good way for the Texans. And so, yeah, do I want to have a bunch of 15-yard penalties for nonsense? No, but I feel like if you're playing at that level all the time, you're going to have a little bit of that, and that's okay. I just feel like that twitchy explosiveness inside, the ability to play the run the way that he does, how quick he is, I think it would be a really, really good fit. And I think for him, this would be the defense you'd want to play in because you learn from a great defensive line coach in Rod Wright. You play for D'Amico Ryans. You play next to Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. and the guys I mentioned on the defensive interior. Man, you can absolutely eat as a rookie, and you'll get your opportunities. The Texans have proven that. Even though the roster has gotten better and better, they'll play you as a rookie. There is no question about that. I think Shamar would be a great fit at 58 for us.
Hey, John, looking ahead, what do you think, from your perspective, is going to be the role that Christian Kirk is in that offense?
I think that the quick answer is, he's in the slot. And there's not a problem with that. I think Christian, when he played against us, I remember 2023 at home, the Jaguars beat us. And they beat us that day because we couldn't cover Christian Kirk. And at all. And he ran most of his, did most of his stuff from the slot. So I think what's going to be interesting about this offense, OB, is we don't really quite know what Nick Caley, offensive coordinator, is going to do, because he's got Patriots. He's coached with the Patriots and the Rams. And they're not diametrically opposed, but they are different in the way that they approach offensive football. So does Nick Caley kind of bridge the two? Does he lean one way or the other? I think with Christian Kirk, he's going to want a guy that can get open now and can get the ball to C.J. Stroud's hands if especially the offensive line is not the group we want it to be. Now, we think it's going to be a better group, but I think that Christian Kirk helps make the offensive line, makes it better just by getting open the way that he does. And I think that's something that we didn't have last year really in the slot. John Mechie played in the slot, but I think John is just not that kind of guy. I think Christian has that ability to make you, to slip you with a move and get open quickly. And we just lost all semblance of a quick game last year because I don't think we had that kind of receiver. But we do now with Christian Kirk. I think Christian's going to catch, as long as he stays healthy, I think it's 90 to 100 balls. I think it's going to be close to 1,000 yards, but it's going to be the volume of catches for him. But I think they'll find some ways to get him the ball, push passes, some jet sweeps, do some things like that to just keep the defense off balance. But I think he could live in the slot and just go to work and really have success. And I think with slot receivers, we see a lot of slot receivers in high school, in college. They don't quite have all of that. You don't really see it develop. Christian's developed that at a level where he can handle all the chaos. He knows where to land in zones. He knows how to beat man to man.
Got to jump in there, Johnny. We're up against it, buddy. Thanks very much. I'm sorry we have to cut it off. We'll talk to you next week, buddy. John Harris on
man, take care, boys.
Later, man. We'll come back with 30-second segment. It's TexAgs. Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olsen wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it. And we're back, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance. Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I lied. We actually have a minute.
A whole minute.
20-ish.
80 seconds.
Here's the thing.
I can do a lot of damage in 80 seconds.
John Harris, when I used to do radio with John, as you know, awesome co-host on slow sports days. Because he can just, you ask him anything, he's got an answer, and a good answer.
Well, he has, especially when he's talking about the Texans, he has so much knowledge.
Yep.
And I was really into that, what he's saying. He can say, yeah, well, they're going to put Christian Kirk in the slot, and I think he can be real productive. No. They're going to put him in the slot, and here's why, and he's going to get 90 to 100 balls, and here's why it's really important that he's in the slot, because he can quickly get open, and that's going to help their offensive line because they didn't have a quick game last. I mean,
I agree.
So, it's kind of like going to the doctor, and they don't just give you a diagnosis. They tell you, here's what it is, here's how you got it, here's what's going to happen if you don't deal with it, and here's how we're going to get it treated.
All right, let's get ready for the ultimate culinary showdown, the Pantry to Plate Chef Challenge, benefiting the Brazos Valley Food Bank, Thursday, April 10th. That's tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Texas A&M Hotel and Conference Center. It's going to be a good old time with local chefs, Blake Zeitman of Zeitman's Deli, Irma Barrera of the Taquero Mucho, and Tanner Purdom of the Wild Garlic Turn. Make sure you check it out. It's going to be fun. Carla Castillo from KBTX will be there, Alex Egan as well. If you can't make it, donate online. Join them for the fight against a hunger-free Brazos Valley. Get your tickets now at bvfb.org/Pantry Plate Chef Challenge 2025. It's TexAgs Live. Ronnie next. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studios. Time for Recruiting Country, brought to you by American Momentum Bank. American Momentum Bank is the only privately owned bank headquartered in Bryan College Station, and they're committed to helping our community prosper by offering you a wide array of personal and business banking solutions specifically designed to help build financial success with confidence and momentum on your side. Ryan Brauninger is here. Hey, buddy.
Do you want to talk football today, or do you want to talk football?
I would like to talk football. We're doing a condensed version of Recruiting Country. I wouldn't mind a question or two on baseball at the end.
No, oh, okay. But you don't want to talk football.
Oh, I see. I already knew this was coming.
There's a second leg.
Yeah. I never, ever talk trash when my team wins. Ever.
Did I talk any trash?
But I know where you're going. His Arsenal team destroyed my Real Madrid team.
It was actually 3 world-class goals that I can't believe we scored.
They were beautiful. They were fantastic.
Like, if you lose to a team scoring goals like that, you just go, it's not our night.
And also, we're bad. The truth is, we're bad for our standards. You know,
they shouldn't be bad.
No.
And I still have,
defensively, everybody's hurt. So, yes, we should be bad.
Well, let's not, we'll talk injuries, but, All right. Some people don't like to talk injuries when they're legitimate, reasons.
We're not legitimate.
No. But when injuries are a legitimate reason, they impact performance.
Oh, gotcha. Like our entire back line? Gotcha. Go ahead. Congratulations to Arsenal, by the way.
They haven't won anything. They won one game.
We'd have to score 4 goals to win, and you'd 0. It's over. But this Real Madrid, the magic has happened before. Ask
That's
Man
what
City.
I'm saying. I know.
Let's talk A&M, so I don't lose everybody. Everybody oh no. We'll get to baseball in a moment, but let's talk some football stuff because I know you got some linebacker targets you want to talk about.
Well, I just kind of want to maybe rehash the linebacker board and how it's come together, because if we were on this segment even a month ago and talking about linebackers, and we've talked a lot about how the big board has shuffled and how new names have been added, some names have fallen, some names have risen. But even doing that a month ago, if we were going to go through every linebacker target on the A&M big board back in March, late February, Jason and I could have come on here and talked about every linebacker prospect that we knew of that A&M was really in on.
Yep.
And not once would the name Storm Miller have come up. So whenever we start talking about these names, or I'm going to start talking about some of these names, I think it's important to understand that this is not a comprehensive overview of the linebacker board, but I do think it's an interesting conversation with one in the boat now in Storm Miller, a guy who we didn't talk about at all.
Yep.
So let's start in-state. Okay, and I also think we need to, I would like to see us have an option on the site to start listing guys as edge players, because Samu Moala is listed as a linebacker. He's more of an edge player, much like Marco Jones, right? We listed Marco Jones as a linebacker last year. He's an edge player, obviously having a lot of success so far in spring ball here. But so when you're counting linebackers in this class, I wouldn't necessarily put Samu Moala amongst that group. Right now, it's just Storm Miller. So beyond that, I think you have to start in the state of Texas, and we're going to look at 3 names. We're going to look at DeQuivis Beck out of Carthage, Tank King out of Port Arthur Memorial, and Calvin Thomas at Cy Ranch. Now, the interesting thing with all of those is I think A&M is down the road at different levels with each of them, and I also think each of them are down the road with A&M at different levels. So what that means is, I think at one point, Calvin Thomas wasn't even on the radar. And now he's been offered, he's got some family history with Texas A&M. His dad went to school here, has a 20-plus year career now in the military. So there's a lot of things about Texas A&M that he and the family like. Tank King's been on A&M's radar for 3 years now. I think we've been talking about the Port Arthur Memorial linebacker for quite a while. And then DeQuivis Beck is another kid who I think, as the homework was being done in January and February before the dead period was lifted and kids could come back to campus or coaches could go out on the road to visit high schools, I think in that period, when they started really evaluating the entire crop of in-state players, especially the ones they were interested in, I think DeQuivis Beck saw his stock rise in the eyes of Texas A&M. And I also think the flip side has happened. I think Texas A&M has really risen in the eyes of DeQuivis Beck. And so, I don't know. Jason talked to him this week. I don't know if that has come out yet. I don't want to give away all the details of that interview, but it doesn't sound like he is in any hurry to make an announcement, a decision announcement, or a commitment announcement. But with where A&M's standing with KJ Edwards, his high school teammate at Carthage, and then now seemingly with DeQuivis Beck, A&M could be looking at landing 2 players in this class, high caliber players, highly regarded prospects in the eyes of the A&M coaches and teammates from a high school program that's as elite as they come in the state of Texas out there at Carthage. So A&M in a really good spot, not only for DeQuivis Beck, but also his teammate KJ Edwards at running back. And that is where I would look right now in terms of in-state linebacking prospects, DeQuivis Beck, Tank King, and Calvin Thomas. I would also throw Tamarian Watkins in that group. He's out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. He plays a lot of safety, but he's like 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds already. He looks like he's going to be like getting closer to the line of scrimmage as he gets older and adds weight. And A&M's recruiting him as a linebacker and has made that known. So he's another one that I think when you look at the national services, you're going to see safety listed. He's being recruited as a linebacker, and A&M did a really nice job with him on his last visit to College Station. And I think if I were to just narrow the focus of the linebacking group right now, it would be those 4 names.
Okay.
And I also think that numbers, and we talked about this before, like numbers matter less now than they ever have. Because if you're a coach, the difference, at one point you had limitations where like, hey, the most we can sign at linebacker this class is 3. Well, you still have limitations, but I would venture to say that you can bump that number by 1, maybe even 2. Like I think they're gonna sign 3 in this class, but if they got to 4, and then one of the best in the country said I want to come play, they'd go to 5.
Sure.
Because numbers, they fluctuate so often. Every 10 months now, because of the portal, you're gonna have less. You could go into A&M football could go into this year, and I don't know the exact number. I'm making this up. They could go in there into this football season and have 10 scholarship linebackers in the room, and then you could look up next January after the portal, and you're going, we got 3. So you better make sure you're backfilling and really not worry about the numbers, worry about the quality that you're bringing in.
Do players worry about numbers more than?
For sure.
Yeah.
They have to, and that's of all the changes in recruiting, I think depth chart is one thing that's remained the same in terms of what kids are looking at and concerned about.
Yeah.
Now, there's ways you can mitigate that, and obviously that depth chart changes more often now than it ever has. But yeah, that's still a real discussion point in these recruiting meetings.
Another note, you sent me silent commits. So how do we get into silent commits?
So
because they're silent.
Well, I told you last time I was in here what I think about silent commitments. I don't acknowledge them as commitments. I acknowledge them even less now because of kind of how flippant these can be, and with NIL playing such a big factor and a big role in recruitments, you never know when somebody's going to come behind the scenes and over-offer a kid and get him off that silent commitment. But, I mean, and I won't get into specifics of who it is, but me and Jason feel like they've probably got closing in on a handful of silent commitments.
Wow.
But that doesn't matter. Like, until they go public, it doesn't really matter. And so I would just be cautious and hesitant to even get too far into the weeds with this stuff. But I did want to not, like, there's a good handful of kids that we believe, our recruiting team believes, that have told the A&M coaches, I'm coming. And to varying degrees at varying timelines. So we got to prep everything. Like we have, to be quite candid, I think we've probably got 25 or 30 commitment stories written.
Yep.
They don't have that many guys silently committed, but that's the kind of work we have to do this behind the scenes to stay prepared. But we do feel like A&M has done a great job this spring. But until those decisions go public, until those intentions are made public, then it's hard to really stamp it with an A, in terms of grading what they've done this spring. I think they've done a nice job. I love what they've done in terms of their evaluations. I love kind of how they have recombed and done their homework again on the state of Texas. I love that. And we'll see kind of how all of that, does all that work come to fruition in terms of some of these guys that are either silently committed or really close to committing to A&M end up pulling the trigger publicly.
Remind the audience why sometimes they silent commit.
I don't know.
Is it to open it?
Well,
keep that door open?
I do know, but it's like, I think a lot of these kids like, I really want to come here, but I better wait to see whatever else happens, you know? And whether it's they go into Mike Elko's office and they say, hey, coach, I'm an Aggie, or they go in there and say, I want to be an Aggie. Those are two different things, right? But even if they go in there and they say, Coach Elko, I want to be an Aggie, and then they don't make it publicly known, then I think the coaching staff has to go, okay, then what's the deal? What's the holdup on you announcing publicly? Because the worst thing that could happen is I go in there and I say, Coach Nuño, I'm committing to TexAgs. And then I'm going to announce it publicly. I'm committed to TexAgs. But right after I commit to TexAgs, I'm going to go interview at XYZ places. Right. You'd rather, if you're the owner of TexAgs, you'd rather me say, hey, or you'd rather say, hey, don't publicly announce anything
until you're
go. If you want to go do all that other stuff, that's fine. But we'd rather you not be committed and take other visits, and then shop around what's out there. So I do think there's some give and take. And in this environment, like drawing a hard line against that stuff, Brent Venables has kind of been famously or infamously known for, if you're committed and you take other visits, you're not committed anymore. I think that's a dangerous game to play in this day and age. You're better off just saying, hey, man, if we want you, 100% we want you, but if you're not ready, if you want to go take those other trips, go take them. We're not going anywhere. We're going to still recruit you really hard.
Let's talk quarterback, because one of the notes you sent me was there's still a lot of intrigue there with some of the names.
Well, again, I shouldn't have written intrigue, because I don't think that there's intrigue unless something happens with Helam and Kasuga. But as we've stated on this program, as the coaching staff has stated to Helam and Kasuga in his inner circle, like they can't get burned again like they did in last class, where they put all their eggs in the Hassan Longstreet basket. He committed early and then burned them, I think it was 18 days before signing day, and kind of left them in a scramble. Now, I love how they rebounded. Brady Hart and Eli Morkos have both gotten really strong reviews so far this spring. But intrigue's not the right word unless something happens with Helam and Kasuga. But I do want to say that like they're continuing to recruit and make contact with other quarterbacks. And I've mentioned some of them in these recruiting country videos before. You look at Keyshawn Henderson at Houston Legacy, obviously the high school quarterback of Mike Brown, who's now committed. Keyshawn has been committed to the University of Houston for a long time. U of H went in early and said, we believe you're a quarterback. We don't think you're a safety. We don't think you're a wide receiver. And that's what Keyshawn wanted to hear, and they've stuck with him, and he has stuck with them. And I think now with the influx of investment at U of H, specifically behind Tillman Fertitta, it's going to get harder and harder to pull kids off commitments to that school. I think Willie Fritz is a really good coach. So that's going to be tough to do. There's a kid at the Woodlands named Jack Dalton who's committed to TCU. Some of the stuff he's doing in these camps right now is really impressive. And surprising a lot of folks in terms of his overall athletic profile. Some of the times he's running are very eye-opening. And that's a kid that, it's close. And when you look at what TCU did in the last class, and I don't know Jack Dalton at all, so I'm not saying that this recruiting pitch would work, but this is how I would go about it if I wanted that, whether I'm Texas A&M or anybody else. I'm like, hey, man, like I know your relationship with the TCU coaches, but you're going to go in there behind a Schobel. They just signed Adam Schobel in the class before you, who's really talented, and that name carries some cachet in Fort Worth, obviously. So there's some recruiting pitches that can happen for that kid if A&M or anybody else decides they really want to make a hard push there. But I think when we go back and update our rankings in the class of 2026, Jack Dalton may make one of the bigger jumps across the state. It's really impressive what he's done so far.
Talk to me about offensive line and how you think it could unfold.
Well, that one is kind of, sorry. So you can start in Dallas with a big group of offensive linemen, and it's not as gaudy as that last group of DFW tackles. A&M got Lamont Rogers. There was Ty Haywood up there in the last class. Like Dallas in the class of 2025 had 3 5-star offensive tackles. A&M was just trying to get one of them, and they did, and they got Lamont. This class, you're looking at guys like Zayden Krempin at Prosper, Toa Katoa at Euless Trinity, John Turntine at North Crowley. Those are 3 that I think A&M is really making positive moves with. I'm not ready to say that they're the leader with any of them yet, but I think A&M is making up a lot of ground, and maybe even a couple of them have moved to the front of the line. And then I'm looking at Avery Morcho out of Fort Bend Ridge Point, who I think I've seen him a lot. I saw him as a young player before he had any offers, and I'm like, man, if this kid, if the strength catches up to the frame and the athleticism, like he is going to be a real prospect. And kind of slowly but surely you've seen that strength catch up. He's he's a fluid athlete for being such a big kid, massive hands. He checks a lot of the trait measurable boxes that you want, and he was on campus this past weekend again. And so that's going to be a hotly tested recruitment, and I'm anxious to see if A&M makes an all-in push for Morcho, because I think if they do, they're going to be in a great spot to land him. So I think you could see a 4 or 5 man offensive line class, perhaps even 6, and a lot of it come from the state of Texas.
All right, let's talk some baseball before I let the 4x400 guys into the studio. So the way I've kind of been processing is they're playing better ball. Regardless if it's an insurmountable hill or not, they're playing better ball, and they're giving me reasons to feel like, you know what? I'm not ready to write the season over.
Yeah, what they did in Knoxville and then, last night against a pretty bad Sam team is all they've done is prolong the hope. And if you have to look at the numbers, this is the best stretch of the offense has played by a million miles. They've scored 104 runs in their last 9 games. And that includes a game where you were shut out and no hit.
Right.
So the offense, this is the best run they've been on. They should carry a lot of that confidence into the series this weekend against South Carolina. But just because you beat Tennessee in a series guarantees you nothing against South Carolina.
Right.
But I think when you listen to the kids talk, and we had Wyatt and TK in yesterday, and there's clearly they're playing with more confidence, right? And they have to find some production in left field and at first base. I don't care if it's walks, if it's sacrifices, those can't be auto outs. And I think if they can get to that point with those 2 positions, then you're looking at this offense and going, okay, like this is a much better version of than what we saw early in the season without Grahovic and without Sorrell. Getting Gavin Cash back, that's really important. And then can you get Caden Sorrell to a point where he can play in the outfield, because that would solve a big issue.
Yeah. And when you look at the road ahead, Arkansas, Texas, like all this onslaught, which was going to be hard regardless. If A&M was the number 1 team in the country, this was going to be a hard schedule. How does a team, and I know you're supposed to look at it 1 series at a time, I recognize that. How do you stop a team from really thinking about, like, man, this is a big hill to climb?
Well, I think you go back to, you really took it a day at a time after getting embarrassed at Tennessee. Like, that was your back couldn't be any more against the wall than it was. And so if you were looking at the entire schedule of what they had to do from that Saturday to the end of the season, it's too daunting.
Right.
And to narrow the focus of those kids is really important. And for those kids to buy into, we are playing this pitch, and even a little bit more so than that, we're playing this game and that's it.
Yep.
You can't look at the top of Mount Everest and say, I got to get to the top. You just got to take the next step. And I think that it's imperative that they keep that line of thinking and that line of focus going forward, because, again, like if you go into that South Carolina series overconfident, you will lose the series at home, and then it doesn't matter what you did in Knoxville.
Yep, exactly.
If you look ahead to Arkansas and you look ahead to Texas and LSU, and you're going, oh man, like how do we get to this amount of wins? Like, you can't do that. Play this pitch, play this game, and we'll worry about tomorrow.
Let me do one last question. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. On the YouTube page, T. Johns has a question for Bronny.
He says, how has baseball recruiting been going this year, especially with the backslide of the baseball team in the front half of the year?
Well, a lot of the high school stuff is done. They've signed their entire 2025 class. They've got most of their 26 class committed. You haven't seen any kids bail on their commitments. They've added 2 junior college pitchers in the last couple of weeks. So I would say it's like it hasn't shot up, it hasn't shot down. It's kind of holding ground, treading water.
Okay. Thank you, Bronny. Yep. Appreciate you, buddy. Right now, we're talking Rollo Insurance. The difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for. They do the shopping for you so that you can accomplish your insurance goals. Our insurance goals is to figure out what insurance to get when my boys start driving here. Yeah, they'll be like 30 by the time they actually start. But I'm still going to need to make sure that it is cost effective and also the best comprehensive coverage I can get. And that's why I got Morgan at Rollo Insurance. You can get your own personal agent by calling them up, 888-44-ROLLO. They're going to take great care of you. They've got 60 offices in Texas, but their headquarters is right here on Highway 6 in College Station. You can call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. That is rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Time for a little track and field update brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store where you can find Brooks on Hoka's shoes located at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. They just wrapped up the Florida Relays, and the men are ranked number 1 in the country, women number 3, and the men's 4x4 relay team ran a 3:02:15 to win the event, the number 1 team in the world. What's up, guys? How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, we got Anthony here, Norquia. I said it with a Spanish flair. I apologize. But
that's perfect.
Norquia?
I love it.
There we go. Cutler Zamzo, Kamar Farquharson, and Ahmad Robinson. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. And Cutler, I think you're going to help me do this interview because I heard you before the segment. It was pretty good. Let's start off with you, Anthony. Just talk about the vibe this year and how things are trending.
This is my first year on this team, so I'm kind of new to everything, but I've had a great time with the team. Things just seem to be a lot more business-like than on other teams, so it's just been great to be surrounded by people that are like-minded. We all want to win more than anything else, so it's just great to be on a team where everyone shares that same mindset.
Cutler, talk about the team inside the team, right? So I know this group is a very close group, but you guys specifically have a special bond.
You know, the last time I was asked a question like that, it was about the culture on the team, and I said the culture on the team is good. What the hell does that mean? Man, see, I kind of just like last time. We are a great team. You know, we have recruits, actually. We're having a lot more recruits lately, and they always ask what the team is like. And that's just something you kind of have to experience for yourself. And so, like, they come out to practice and stuff, and I thought it was funny. Tony said we're always serious. Not at practice.
No?
No, we like to have a good time.
Yeah.
And it just shows in the way we do everything. We're really chill about everything until we step on the track.
Kamar, talk about how the season's gone for you.
Okay, for me, the season's going really good. Get a PR last week in the 800, 1:45.99. And also the 4x4 is going really good. It's not the fastest time, but we can go way faster. But 3:02 is really good right now. So if we can go 3:02 without not running the race properly, almost fall in the race, and we can go 3:02.
Yeah.
What if we never fall or something? Maybe we can go like 2:59 in 3 minutes or something. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kamar, take me to the 4x400 this past week and just how it all kind of unfolded.
That's you.
Oh, me? Oh, sorry. You say Ahmad. Okay, the 4x4 this was really good. Like, I feel like we kind of mess up on my leg, on the third leg. Someone tried to kick my foot, and I lose my balance in it. But also, I can say, like, we come out, we do the best, fight for it, and we still get the win. And the win is really more important for us.
And Ahmad, your perspective of it all?
Yeah, it just, a lot of, like, mishaps happen, but I know we can go faster, and I know we will go faster.
That's just crazy to me. Mishaps happen, and you guys are, like, destroying it. So talk about the next level, Tony, for you all.
The next level after this, we'll probably be doing this every week, you know, stepping out, running a good time. We don't really have a choice, so right. We have a target on our back every time we step out there now. So we'll just do what we've been doing the whole year, which is just step out, beat whoever's lining up next to us.
Cutler, I want you to play the talk show host. I feel like a wedding MC right now, holding this mic, being standing here. But I want you to ask each person something. It could be anything. It could be something funny. It could be something track and field. You take over for a minute.
You know, the one thing I want to know, especially after last week for Kamar, is how the heck you kept your balance. Because I watched that video, and he should have went to the ground.
Yeah, for me, like, in my mind, I'd be like, I know if we go down, coach gonna be upset about it. So I'll be like, no, I'm gonna keep and run. And also, it was in Florida, you know. I didn't want Florida to beat us, so I do whatever it takes for us to win. And once I pass the ball to Amma, you're gonna carry us to the finish line. You know, same as me. If I'm on the anchor leg, I'm gonna do the same thing. So for me, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna give it to him. So we're gonna win. You know, and that's what I did, because if we lose, it's gonna be a bad feeling for us. You know? So I didn't want to take the L, so I'd be like, why not take the double and call it a day? The time doesn't really matter to us, it's just the winning matter for us at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the handoff, though?
The handoff? What handoff?
Yeah,
He was like on the left of Florida.
Yeah.
And Ahmad was on the right of Florida. And
Oh,
he
hey, I
handed
remember
off,
being in a situation like that.
he handed off like underhand.
We got it like
past
this.
Florida.
Yeah.
That's
But my question to Amma, right? How you know I was gonna put it through that?
Bro, I didn't know. I just kept my eyes on the stick the
It
whole
was
time.
crazy, bro.
Yeah.
And I just grabbed it.
I rewinded
Coach
it. I
Henry would be
said,
proud.
Dude, that
said there's
was
no way.
unique, bro. Like I just did something like this and just grab it and start to move. I didn't expect that either.
Color, any other questions for the guys?
Oh, no, I'm good. Oh, I got a question for Ahmad. Not really a question. You know, I told him earlier in the week, I said, now I'm in 45-3, number 3, said, they're going to put me in your heat.
Mm.
You better watch out, big guy.
On live TV, it's crazy, bro.
So what's ahead? What's the next meet?
The home meet
We
this
have
weekend.
This weekend?
Yeah. And then we have,
I think 44 farms.
yeah. And then we fly down to Oregon. And then we fly down to Penn Relays. And then we're back at home.
Well, the 44 Farms has 34 teams coming to town, including 20 Power 4 conferences. So there's going to be some really good competition here. What's it like when you run here as opposed to other places? Obviously, the familiarity helps out quite a bit, but just, and anybody can answer this, but just being here at home with your normal routine.
I'll let you guys answer that
So
one.
for me, it's just my parents get to come. You know, everybody can't come. So most of those like expensive meets. So I really just run in front of my family, and not only my family, but the home crowd. It's like a different atmosphere.
Ahmad, I see you're the SEC Men's Runner of the Week. That just came out. Just the accolades are great. You want the accolades at the end of the year, though, right?
Yeah, it was definitely.
Talk to me about how you keep getting better, though. Like it's because Coach Henry always preaches to us that it's important what you guys are doing right now, but it's kind of a timing thing to be at your absolute best. How do you kind of time that to be at your best at the end?
I really just say like my teammates, like they just keep me motivated, encourage me to do my best at all times. Like I would say my confidence level wasn't that high like last year, just cause I don't know. I just like I get it in my head before the race, and I'll just run it like trash. But now my teammates motivate me like, hey bro, you're good at what you do, bro. Just try your best every time you step on the track. And I know we have a target on our back, so we got to show out every time we step on the track.
Gentlemen, thanks for coming in. Hope to see you guys again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back here on TexAgs Live, Trisha Ford will be here in studio. Kay Nagley will join me for that. But right now, let's talk about water, not just any water, the water right here in Brazos County and Robertson County. It's not just something that comes out of your taps. It's the lifeblood of everything we love about our home. And right now, out-of-state interests are eyeing our water, threatening our community's future. That's why we're asking you to consider keeping water local. It's a group of local neighbors fighting to protect what matters most. And if you care about this community, it's not just about the water that comes out of your taps. Remember, it's about preserving the farms and the Aggie spirit that makes this place so special. Head to keepwaterlocal.org to get involved and keep our water right here where it belongs, local. It is keepwaterlocal.org. And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Talking a little softball. Got Kay Nagley helping me out with Trisha Ford in studio. Extra day in Georgia.
Yes, we had an extra really 48 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, who's counting? But it's all right. We got 2 wins, played 2 games, and now we're back here in Davis Diamond, and we have LSU. So,
how are you feeling? You're winning, so I know you're feeling good, but just everything kind of coming together as it keeps heating up.
yeah, I think, we talked about this a little bit during our bye week, non-conference week, we'll call it. We played a lot of games, and we were able to kind of fine-tune some things. And then our question to the team was, can you take that into this next weekend? And I felt they did just a tremendous job in the batter's box, honestly, and really kind of taking the things that they had been working on over the week and into SEC play. So that part I was really, really happy with. And, Lefty was dominant. It was really nice to see her back to her old form.
Yeah, if you talk about this weekend, I don't think you can go without mentioning KK DeMet. I mean, what a week. Earned SEC Player of the Week as a freshman, first time since 2021. Just what about her? And you spoke on it a little bit yesterday, just seeing that growth from the freshman.
Yeah, we all know that play the bat and ball sports, there's moments, right, where things kind of, you can't buy a hit. That's what we would say. Mm-hmm. And, she stuck with it. She kept working. She was working with Coach Harger and just doing a great job of staying kind of calm and like, it's going to come. And there's a famous, Babe Ruth quote where he says, I'm one swing away from my next home run. Like, you as a hitter have to think that. And so, this weekend you could see her in our non-conference play really start to kind of feel it. She got her first hit. She feels like it's been forever, but and then it's kind of like the monkey's off her back. So I thought she just looked different in the box. The ball looked like a balloon to her. And, I'm hoping that this weekend it looks the same way. Yeah.
This past weekend, too, you won different ways, right? Yeah. You won with just offensive firepower, and then you had to come back, too.
Yes, we seem to like to do both. Yeah, but I felt like the first game we didn't play some clean defense in the beginning, and then we didn't execute some pitches. And then I thought Emily Levitt. I mean, that was the story of the game was Emily Levitt and her ability to come in there, get us 2 big strikeouts, stop the bleeding, and then our offense went to work. I went out there when I made that change, and KP looked at me and she's like, "We're all right, coach. 4 runs are not going to be enough for us today." So I was like, all right, I'm going to hold you to it, KP.
That's awesome. You talked last week a little bit how just necessarily the power numbers didn't exactly jump out and you were just pretty consistent. And then your team went and hit 5 home runs on Saturday.
Yeah, maybe I should tell them that I mean, Maya, Allie, KK had a couple. It was a great weekend offensively, in Georgia. You have some things you have to worry about. We have a lot of lefties in our lineup. They have 2 really dominant left-handed pitchers, so you're trying to figure out what that's going to look like. And I thought we just did a really good job of executing our game plan.
Well, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that because it's now a home run streak. Well, I shouldn't say it out loud, but they've hit in several games. All right, I'll just say more than one. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that because I once said something about a streak on this show with a former coach, and I was like, why did I say that out loud? So I won't go there. But you're seeing the ball. The team as a whole throughout the lineup is seeing the ball better.
Yes, yep. And I think it sounds really simple, but it's hard to execute. Mm-hmm. But it's the ability to really hunt pitches over the white. There's so many pieces of this game that are mental, and that's really one of them. Is just being able to stay patient, keep your kind of you really want to do well, and you have to keep funnel that into being able to really hunt pitches over the middle of the plate.
I was doing some research this morning on Emily Kennedy, and to this point last year, she had 139 innings pitched. Right now, she's at 91. How much do you think that's going to benefit her just down the stretch with less innings?
Yeah, that was a plan going into it. So I'm hoping, either you're going to look really smart or really dumb, but I think she's starting to kind of find her footing and really starting to get into her rhythm, which is great for us, right? You want her to start getting better and better and better as the year goes by. So this is very calculated in how we did it. Mm-hmm. This preseason was different from her. She got every hard game for us because I just wanted it to kind of callous her, right? Just like get better. What do you need to do at this level every single day? Because there's a physical part of this game, but there's a huge mental part. And so being able to mentally go up and every pitch count. I think, she just got so many reps with that you're starting to see that kind of comfort as we go through this stretch.
Talk a little bit about Coco's impact. 225th career hit happened over the weekend at Georgia. 8th all-time in program history. How has her role kind of evolved with you?
Yeah, I mean, so when we got here, Coco was a short gamer, right? So, and we sat down with her and she's like, I really want to swing away a little bit. And so our first kind of approach is just, let's see what we got. Let's see what the short game looks like. We know that she's super dynamic and athletic. And so it was one of those conversations that kind of evolved as the years have evolved. And so one thing that we told her is that her short game, meaning her bunting, like that could not go away. And so then this year, she even started off at the top of our lineup. Now she's been in a more of an RBI role. And so that's been the key, is that she's just a chameleon. Like, we need you to short game. We need you to bunt. We need you to squeeze. She can do it. We need you to hit doubles. She can do that as well. So, Coco's just a special athlete. And I just tell her, like, I'm going to enjoy this last year with her because I'm not going to take this for granted.
Last season, you were swept by LSU on the road. I can see the look on your face. There's some added motivation there, right?
Yes, we might have talked about that once or twice. Yeah, so it's digging in at me. Georgia, the last time they were here as well. So we have some payback, So we got to put a good game together. They're obviously a very good team. A lot of our numbers match. They're very, very close. And so it's going to be who makes the least amount of errors and who takes advantage of some opportunities.
Speaking of those errors, and you mentioned clean defense, and as a whole, how do you think that is tracking?
I think we're okay. I think there's some things that we could still do, and really it's just picking the right hops, getting our feet, settled when we make throws. It's just little things that always kind of creep up. So. Today is our defensive heavy day, so we will work on that. And sometimes, especially when you're playing on different fields, you just get some crazy hops. Like Coco got a ball that, like, she was right there, and then all of a sudden it picked up speed and then skirted to the left, and you're just like,
right.
There's nothing you can do about that. So, sometimes that's the way it is, but, I think giving our outfielders some opportunities to throw home, make them feel fresh with that, because I think there'll be some plays at the plate this weekend.
Another top 10 series at Davis-Diamond. Just you've said it from the beginning. If you put a product on the field, 12th man will come. Just how much buy-in and support do you feel for your program right now?
Yeah, I we're in a great spot. I think I want it to be loud. I think we have tickets are hard to come by right now for this weekend, and I want there to be a home field advantage. That's the beauty of playing at Davis-Diamond. It's the best venue in college softball. I think we have the best fans in college softball, so I want them to come out this weekend, be loud, and help us win us the series.
Trisha, who are some leaders that maybe we don't know much about them, or maybe their leadership style? Is there a couple voices on the team that that's how we play?
Yeah, we have a lot of different types. I would say Amari Harper is one that maybe we don't talk about enough. She's a quiet leader. We talk about Allie. Allie does her stuff by her work ethic. Ojo is another kid that, as somebody that has come into our program, does a great job of she knows a lot of our players from playing, she's from Texas. So, there's obviously your normal ones, your Emily Kennedy's in the bullpen. And, but I think the one thing that we talked about when we go on our retreat in the, I guess you would call it winter, when we get back from winter break, is we don't need to have one leader. Like, what are you really good at? Like, that's what I need you to lead this team in. What am I good at? Like, that's what I need to help this team win. Okay, what are you good at? And so we kind of talked about what our strengths were. And so when those opportunities come up, it's then, hey, that's where I'm really good at. Like, I need to address that.
Right.
And so that's what I feel like we do a really good job of.
Throughout the offseason, is this where you almost expected your team to be at this point, as far as just what the numbers look like, what the production looks like, all of that?
Yeah, so running joke about me, I don't look at any of that. Coach Harger and Coach Heff will sit down before season starts, and they have their over-under, where they think we are going to be, and I stay out of it. I'm a very much where my feet are in the moment, and really trying to get the best out of them today, and what that looks like. Yeah. So
let's close out with this, because I think I know how you'll answer. But when we're staying where your feet are at, you can't allow too much good or too much if a series goes bad or if a series goes great to affect the next series. Talk about that kind of thinking of, I'm going to just keep it to this moment.
Yeah, I talk to them about the horse blinders. That's really how I approach season. And that's how I want them to approach it, because you can't do anything about the last at bat or the last pitch or the last ball, but you can do something about the present kind of whatever's coming at you. And so for me, that's what this summer is after the season is I reflect back, like things that I thought we did really well and then things that I feel like we could have done better. And so I just think it's important for you to really all bought into what we're trying to do. So this week, it's about how do we beat LSU? How do we take a series? And what do we need to do to be successful?
Thank you, Trisha. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and good luck this weekend against LSU. Moment now for Heritage Films. They do documentary films. My buddy Chance McClain isn't just doing like these documentaries. I mean, yeah, they are, but they're family stories. And they're ones that you can have your family story told for the next generation and the generation after that. He's preserving family legacies and otherwise would be lost forever. You need to reach out to Chance and have him capture your family's essence, the very beginnings of your family business, the very beginnings of your family ranch, or just your grandfather's story, your dad's story, your mom's story, whoever it may be. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. You can call them up, 713-893-8341. It's yourheritagefilm.com, Heritage Films. We're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in our Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to get to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center here in a moment, but the Daily Company is a family-owned, licensed, insured business that offers HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and generator services available 24/7. That HVAC, that's thermostat repairs. They take care of the leaks, the furnace failures, the seasonal tune-ups, plumbing. They take care of many of the same things: clogged drains, water heater installation, maintenance, electrical wiring, you name it, generators, repair, maintenance, installation. They serve College Station, Houston, and Austin. Have upfront pricing with no surprises. You can contact them at 979-260-2020. That is 979-260-2020, or visit them online at godaily.com to experience the daily difference. We go see Kaylee Dreyer at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. People talking baseball, people talking basketball, people talking softball. What do you got for us?
People talking everything. So in the beginning, we had a comment from Cole Nelson that says, so much more relaxed at the plate, working counts and not pressing, trying to hit the big one. Situational baseball and doing a job has become a priority. Just win. Here's the thing that I have seen happen me as a spectator. I have gone from huge expectations one way to expectations the other way, where like, I don't think we're going to win this game. I don't care if it's a midweek game. To, okay, hold on. I see where they're going. To this Tennessee one giving the bad word of hope, right? And as Bronny said just a little while ago, you can take these 2 steps forward. You better take care of business against South Carolina, or it goes out the door. It just shows what you can do. And to me, the most important thing, I think, look, winning the first game of series does not ensure anything. Just ask Tennessee. They had a perfect first game, right? Legit perfect. They threw a no-hitter, right? And they run-ruled you. But getting that first one, all right, now let's finish it out, right? And I think it's going to be very important for what they do. Anything basketball-wise in there? We have a bunch of people just saying hopefully Bucky can get working on some elite players to be his dogs this season. I'm looking forward to having Luke Evangelos on this show. And he's like, hey, David, they just signed this guy. They signed that guy. They signed this guy. Because, I mean, they got to, like, sign some players, right? Multiple. Like, they've got a full roster to put together. There's not been one person that I've spoken to that has not come away very impressed with what they've seen from Bucky, right? They've come away thinking, wow, I kind of see why they hired him. I like him. I'm intrigued. Let other fan bases talk what they want, right? They can talk. Just know that if you hear this guy talk, you believe in him. Now, the hardest part of his job right now is getting that roster, then getting them to buy into a system and getting that culture set, and then winning. Right? And that's going to be the hardest part. When we come back on TexAgs Live, we will talk some hoops. Henry Coleman right here in studio to chit-chat about his time at A&M, what he thinks about the future, and whatever else can come up. You can text your questions as well at 979-693-1150. It is TexAgs Live.
TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Henry Coleman here in studio. Thanks to our friends at Texas Aggies United. What's up, man?
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
I paid you a compliment privately. I'm going to do it on the air. Henry is always so accommodating to all the fans, to media. Like, yeah, your mom, who's on social media, I love to see her stuff. You're always so kind, man, and it's genuine too. I know it's probably hard to hear a compliment and like respond to it, but I did want to start off with that because I saw you at Bucky's press conference, and it seemed like it was important for you to be there.
Oh, of course. I have a true love for this university. I'm thankful for Coach Williams and what he did and impacted my life and changed my life. But, I still have a real love for this university. And so for Coach Bucky and to be there and to support, and it just meant a lot to me. Just to see that and see, the culture that we built around that and how Coach Bucky is going to carry that on with his new staff and his new players.
How has the last 2-3 weeks been from, there's so many emotions, right? You get to the tournament, you win that first game, you think you're going to win the second one. Unfortunately, you don't. Buzz leaves a little bit later. Just the whole kind of roller coaster of events the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that, a roller coaster. And so for myself, I've kind of reflected on my time here, try to focus on all the good things because, when it gets to the end, you kind of want to maybe focus on what went wrong. I could have done this, I could have done that. But I think I've lived with no regrets. And I felt like I've, made an impact on this university, whether that's basketball or whether that's just being in the community. I feel like I've made an impact and I've tried my hardest every single day.
When you think about your time at A&M as a whole, how do you kind of look at this era of Aggie basketball and what you guys did? And did it probably didn't reach your ultimate expectations or goals because you want to win a national championship, right? So, but overall, from where it was when you got here to where you guys left it?
I think, we did an unbelievable job. And for us, so much for us, it might not always be the accolades. I've seen Manny grow in an unbelievable way. I've seen Wade go from a guy who said he was too small. He can't play in the SEC. He's not built for it, to being one of the best that we've seen at this university and one of the best that we've ever seen in the SEC. And so, you've seen all these guys grow as players, but even more importantly, as young men. And so for us, I don't think it was the accolades that, we focused on. Yeah, we wanted to win the SEC. Yeah, we wanted to win a national championship. But I think us growing as young men and getting prepared for the real world is something that I think, we always will wear on our heart.
I think for fans, too, it's sad that you guys are moving on because it's so rare in today's world of college football to have a group stay together. We watch Hef grow up. We watch Mo grow up. We watched you grow up. Like it's, as from young men to now men.
Yep, and I think that's just truly special. I owe the credit to Coach Williams, but also the staff. I think he surrounded himself with a staff that was, willing to pour into young men, willing to help us and, in the basketball world, but also in life. Every coach had their door open. You could walk up there. You could talk sports. You could talk life. You could talk fishing like I used to do with Coach Lair. Like it was an open environment to where you could always just talk, have a conversation. I think those small conversations helped us in the long run to become better men.
I know you're aware of it, but did it seem rare to have a core group stay together during this era?
Yep. I think it's truly rare because you have friends on other teams and, you see all these people leaving and leaving a good team to go to a bad team. So you see a lot of weird things happening. And so for us to have the core group just speaks to the testament of Texas A&M and Coach Williams, because a lot of guys wanted to stay here. A lot of people, were offered certain things to go here, go there, move back home. But everybody wanted to stay here because of the culture here, because of, you want to go to a baseball game. You want to see, Texas A&M football beat Alabama here. You want to see those things. And so I think that's why a lot of people wanted to stay. And, for us, it was amazing and we had a lot of fun.
Take me inside of the mind of a 18 to 22-year-old with these distractions. Like, how enticing do they make it sound? Like, hey, man, we could use a guy like you at the 4 here. Like, how that kind of, and if you don't have the nucleus that Buzz had here, how easy it would be like, you know what, I may look at that.
Yeah, I think it goes to your coaching staff, but also goes to the character of the person that you are. If you come to somewhere and you are trying to build something, you are trying to make history, you are trying to impact others' lives, you kind of want to stay around to see that happen. You kind of want to see it blossom. And so for us, I think it was just that we wanted to stay around because we wanted to create a culture, an environment that was fun for fans, that it was fun for other student athletes. It was fun for the guys, the freshmen coming in. We wanted to have a certain culture and environment that was a true one, a real one, and a loving one.
If you guys have a question for Henry, you can text it at 979-693-1150. We'll have Kaylee read some of those thoughts. Did you have a favorite basketball moment at A&M?
That's a difficult one. I want to say Auburn just because it was everything compounding, our habits, our love, our work, our trust, all to come, for it to be on senior night,
right?
To beat the #1 team of the country. I think it just, it's just a microcosm of what we had worked towards our entire time here as far as wanting to be on that pedestal, wanting to be, the best Texas A&M team that we could be. And so I think for all the seniors, the managers that night, to go out like that in front of an amazing crowd that cheered us on the entire time, it's truly special to me.
For me, when I think about while you've been here, my favorite moment was the NIT run because it felt like we're on the verge of something special. Yep. That's what it felt like. And the way the 8-game losing streak had just happened, and then you guys just got so hot. To me, it was like, all right, this is a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I would say that NIT run and that SEC tournament run really changed all of our lives. As far as we all looked in the mirror and said, we can do it. And I think then years after that, we reflected on that like, man, we might be going through a bad loss or a 2-game losing streak or a 3-game. Like, remember when we lost 8 guys? And how we were able to, will our way out of that, how we were able to be men about that situation. And so for us, I give huge credit to, Quentin Jackson, and his leadership while he was here, because we're all, Wade, Henry, Mo, we're all young guys. We had never experienced this before. And so Q's leadership truly changed that season. And I would almost say it kind of changed the trajectory of where Texas A&M basketball was going to go. And so huge shout out to Q for that.
I want to look at things through 2 different lenses. First off, how frustrating it might have been during some scoring droughts that this team had, but conversely, how that defense would often spark this offensive run that would come.
Yeah, and we talked about it since day one here. Defense travels. Wherever you are in the country, what we do, defense travels. And so we always hung our hat on defense. We wanted to be the best defensive team out there. And we went through a little bit of offensive struggles here and there, but I think our defense and what we accomplished on that end, and how, teams probably didn't want to play us the game after because how physical we were, how determined we were on the glass, and how, if there was a loose ball, you had to watch out, because we were going after it. And so huge credit to Coach Devin Johnson and Coach Lair for their, expertise on the defensive end, because it changed. There was a switch that just changed after year one. Like, we have to be the best defensive team, in this conference. And so we just tried our best each and every day at that.
Was it surprising that Buzz left to you?
I would say no. I know Coach very well.
Yeah.
And I know what he is trying to build. He is my guy for life.
Yeah.
He's changed my life, my family's life. And so the respect that I have for him, whether he was at A&M, whether he's at Maryland, whether he went back to Virginia Tech, my respect for him will always stay the same because of the effort and the impact that he had on people's lives.
Right.
And the care that he put in each and every day, being the first person at the gym, no matter what, whether we got in at 2 a.m., whether we had the day off, he was going to be the first person in there. And so I just think that how he carried himself, and how he impacted people's lives, it goes beyond basketball.
That's rare, right, for the coach to not only lift with the team, but like be the one who kind of sets the example when it comes to that. It's easy to say it. He did it.
Yeah, and I think, it's funny because when you're on visits and when you're telling, the recruits, coach lifts, man. Like, if you can't tell, you see him run up and down the sidelines. Yeah, coach is jacked. So, but in a serious note, I'm like, he lifts. He goes in there at 5 a.m. And so when you have to go in there at 6, you're like, well, coach is already lifted, man.
Right.
I can't complain now. Coach is 50 years old. He's in there trying to bench press and squat and stuff. And so I think for us, it just was an eye opener. Like, well, if coach is in here, man, we can't complain at all. So it was good.
You were telling me before we started, Pharrell's going to kill it in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, and I think, his game has just truly blossomed. He wasn't always a good player, but he has turned into a hard player to truly guard. His physicality, him finishing both hands around the rim, has, kind of just, his trajectories just keep going linear and it keeps going straight up. And so for him, I'm excited. And I think he'll truly kill it in the Big Ten.
You think there's some pros on that roster? Some guys that are going to play at the next level that you played on?
Yeah. I truly think Pharrell is a pro. I think, Solomon is a pro. I think Wade is one because of his leadership and his willingness to win. He's been doubted his whole life.
Yeah.
And so this is just another step to where he's doubted, and that I know for a fact he's going to outwork every single person in that gym, and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to try to prove every single person wrong who has doubted him. So I have no doubt that Wade will be successful at the next level.
One thing I learned about you is I kind of knew, but how much of a sports fan you are and a historian too. Did you know much about Bucky before his name came up, Coach Bucky McMillan, and what have you thought since?
Yeah, no, I know he's Coach Trendon Wofford, a guy who ended up going, I think, to LSU, who's an unbelievable high school player. So I'd known a little bit about him. I know I'd watched some Samford games. I watched the big one everybody talks about against Kansas. But, I think his basketball expertise is really, truly, well-versed. I think he's somebody who is a new era coach is what I kind of call it. It's kind of goes outside the box of traditional basketball. And so I think he's super cerebral when it comes to the offensive end. And he's going to be really, really hard to guard. And I think he's coming to the best league and where the pace is up and down. And I think he'll have tremendous success in doing that.
I'm a little worried because he doesn't have any players right now, but I feel, and Henry, you've talked to him more than I have. Like when you talk to him, you're like, oh, I want to play for this guy.
Yeah, and he's got a mantra about him that's just very, it's likable.
Yeah.
He's very relatable, and for any type of recruit, you want to go with a coach that's relatable, and a coach that's real. And so with my little conversations with him, I've picked it up early. He's real, and he's sounds like a guy who really tells you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And so I think for, the recruits out there that are, looking at him, I think he's a real deal guy.
What's next for you?
Honestly, don't know right now.
Okay.
Want to work, compliance within, the SEC, Big Ten, any conference. That's what I've worked towards. That's what I love, staying around the game, but kind of behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And just having an impact on young people's lives at the student athlete level.
Could you see yourself staying here?
Potentially, whatever.
Wherever it takes you, right?
Yeah, wherever it takes me. I have a true love for this university. I've seen, what it's done for my life, but also other people's lives. I think that's one thing. When you're going through this, you always want to be selfish and look at yourself. What has it done for me? But you take a step back and you look at, your teammates, and you look at how it's impacted Andy's life, how it's impacted Hayden's life, how it impacts Solo's life. It's changed it.
Yeah.
And so I think, this university truly can change your life. There's so many opportunities to learn, to grow, to meet new people. And it's truly special.
I think it was Jamie Morrison who was in the studio not long ago talking about when he got to campus and he was kind of trying to find his way through, and you saw him and you kind of said, hey, Coach, how can I help you? You guys have developed a nice friendship. So, but that's just your personality, right? You see somebody, you help somebody.
And I think it's my personality, but it's a lot of Aggies out there. I think if you see somebody lost on campus, you probably are trying to help them out. And for Coach Morrison, he has been an unbelievable coach, and I think he is a person who is immersed in this university. He truly cares. If you watch, remember watching that Texas game at Texas, and you see how much he cared, how much those girls cared on the floor. And I think it's for that university, but it's also a little bit for him and how he has, created this culture there. So, huge shout out to Coach Morrison.
Before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple things just about what you're into. So, Masters Week, you've already got your plans, right?
Yeah. I'm going to sit at home the rest of the week and just watch the Masters. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good one, especially, when you have the Live guys coming back and, the PGA guys. I still think there's a little bit of beef, between those guys. And so it's always good to have all of them back and to see, the rivalries kind of come back a little bit.
You were telling me you have a pretty good relationship with Sammy.
Yeah, and Sam Bennett. And so, I'm proud of him and, what he's doing and how I know he is about to climb up in the ranks because he's putting in a lot of work and he's developing, as a golfer, but also as a person.
Who's your football team? I don't know if it's pro. In college, I know it's A&M, but who's your team?
The Steelers.
Steelers are your team.
For right now, I'm, a little hesitant on, where we're going.
Yeah.
I've trusted Coach Tomlin the last,
almost 20
years, how long I've been alive and how long my dad told me I had to be a Steelers fan. And so, we need a quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think.
Is it Aaron Rodgers?
If it's Aaron Rodgers, it is. I wouldn't mind taking Aaron Rodgers and then drafting somebody a little bit later. Hopefully Jackson Dart is able to stay around. Will Howard, I wouldn't mind. So, you get under Rodgers and you learn a lot of stuff, so you're able to take over the offense in 1 or 2 years. And so, but I will say that defense still looks beautiful. So that's one thing I'm not worried about. But you got to score points to win a game.
You have an NBA team you follow?
No, not really. I just kind of like watching the games. Yeah. I really truly like watching this. LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves thing.
I love Luka.
And it's special to watch.
Yeah.
And, I've had a love for that. But I also watch a lot of my old teammates. Mark Williams, who I grew up with, he's playing for the Hornets. And
Q had a big game recently.
Yeah, I know. And watching Q, I still watch some of the Jalen Johnson, who plays for the Atlanta Hawks, and so just watching a lot of my old teammates and seeing how the success they've had. Brings a smile to my face.
And Dex as well doing stuff.
Dex is doing unbelievable. He's still defending at a high level. And, I always see his dunks, on Twitter or Instagram, and so he's doing real well.
How? Talk to me about Andy working with him, because when he got here, people knew you. Not a lot of people knew about Andy, and I think he's going to go down as one of the all-time favorites.
Yeah, I think it's his personality and it's his story, where he's from. He plays with such a chip on his shoulder, but he also has such gratitude for being at this university, for being here, for being around a lot of, people that really care about him. I think he just wore it on his, on his shoulder about how blessed he was to truly be in this position. And that's how he played. I will say he was the hardest playing guy on that floor each and every night. And I'm super thankful for him. And then when he started doing the trumpets and the band, it just became, even better. But for him, he's been somebody who's changed my life, opened my eyes about, how to live with gratitude each and every single day.
And then you grew up watching LeBron. Is he your GOAT?
I would say Michael Jordan.
Oh, okay. You can stay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Michael Jordan for me.
Well, didn't Buzz make you guys watch The Last Dance? I feel like that, or he quoted.
Yeah,
it
he always quotes it, and so I like Michael Jordan just because of, I feel like he was feared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not saying LeBron's not feared, but I feel like
he's loved, right? Like the opponent's like, hey, LeBron, hug me. Yeah.
But I feel like Michael Jordan was feared.
Was Kobe too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Henry, man, you're a class act. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you coming here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with an open segment, and then we'll talk to Kendall Rogers about all things happening Aggie baseball. Right now, Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces, and a mission to build a healthy community. They've done that over 2,600 acres of open space, 30 miles of trails, and of course, they've got homes as well. An extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape. And when you go there, they want you to connect with your family and with nature. You can go hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, equestrian trails are there, evening yoga, you name it, you can do it there at Milliken Reserve. And the property is awesome out there. If you're looking at real estate, you want a neighborhood, they've got 3 awesome neighborhoods. The website is millikenreserve.com. That website again, millikenreserve.com.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
sometimes adding an LOL to the end of it makes it, I think, a little bit more rude. You know what I'm talking about here? TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Dave and Edmund on the YouTube page. Bird never feared Jordan. LOL, like, losers. That's how, isn't that how it reads, Kaylee? Like, so first off, no, not every single human being that ever played basketball feared Michael Jordan, Dave. Thank you for enlightening us again. Thank you. But I think, no, I know most of basketball, outside of Larry Bird and probably Magic probably didn't fear Michael, feared him with the ball at the end of games. I'm sure he did. There was a little, so stop. Dave, you always got to be a contrarian. You all right? You know, I'm going to tell Louis to block you again. Just kidding. Anyway, you have something for us at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, Kaylee, don't you?
Yes, I do. So with Florida being the 2025 national champion, that makes them just the 10th program to win at least 3 national championships.
Yes, it does. I'm trying to remember. I think I've seen all of them. And also, it reminds me of a couple of things that Luke Evangelist said. He did call it the greatest conference in the history of anything, like better than even like politics, sports, movie academies, the greatest ever. He did say that. So he also said that Auburn was the greatest team we've ever seen in the history of basketball by any metrics. So the fact that Florida beat them, that just shows how right he was. Anyway, Luke, I love you. Look, Luke does something that I probably should do that I won't do. He is not scared to go out on a limb. And I think that's a good thing. You know why I don't go out on a limb? Because I don't believe it. If I believe it, I'll tell you. I didn't believe Auburn was the greatest team ever. I understand metrics and da-da-da-da-da. I thought Florida was going to win the national championship a long time ago. Call me smart, yay. But they just... But I still think that Houston was the better team in that game. I still think that Houston was the better... Obviously, they weren't. I just don't think Houston was able to get the separation they needed in that championship game when they had Florida on the ropes. And then, obviously, the execution at the end of that one. What else do you have for us, Kaylee?
So we do have some exciting news for our women's tennis team.
Let's go. Mark Weaver going to be here tomorrow. They could win SEC championship. Right?
Yes. So they secured one of the top 2 spots in the SEC tournament heading into the last weekend of the regular season with a 21-2 overall record and 12-1 in SEC play. They're right behind Georgia in the standings, and they have 2 matches left to play, with one of them being versus Georgia in the finals.
Oh, that sounds very reminiscent of last year. So last year, if I remember correctly, they lost to Georgia in the SEC tournament, the championship match, and it was a real home court advantage for Georgia, right? Real home court advantage. And then, do you know who Texas A&M beat to win the national championship?
I do not.
If you were to guess, who would you guess?
Texas?
Georgia.
Georgia.
So there you go. See, I tied it all together there. What else?
And then we also have some...
Hold on, Dave and Edmund. It's the only way you can read anything I write. LOL. When I write encouraging things, nothing. So, Dave, what you're saying is you want this show to be about you. You get your thrills out of me saying your name in front of millions of people. You want to be the center of attention. Got it. Continue.
We have a comment on the YouTube. It's positive comment about Bucky and says...
Positive. I like positivity.
It says, "I'm pleased to hear the word fearless that Bucky will instill into Aggie basketball. Also, the word relentless would apply too. Bucky's Aggies will deal to the opposition."
Yeah, I can't wait to, I'm ready for basketball season now. It would suck if it started now.
No
All right,
players.
Mr. McDermott, just 1 on 5. But anyway, by the way, I do want to say this. We didn't actually talk about it this segment, but at the break, we were all commenting on how good of a representative Henry Coleman is for our university, and just like a great young man. I've talked to him 15, 20, 30 times, whatever it's been. And every time I walk away, kind of similar to Bucky, by the way, in a different way, I come away like, I don't really like that guy. Like, I like that. And I want to say kid, because to me, he's a kid, but I like that young man. If he wants to get into, what do you say, kind of the, not appliance. He wants to help out behind the scenes. I think he is going to be awesome, and I hope the SEC jumps at the chance to hire that young man. Let's do this. You have something else, or do you want me to hit a break?
I was just going to say that we did have a lot of people commenting on how good of an Aggie he is and how happy they were to hear him on the show.
He was awesome. I really appreciate Henry coming in. Thank you. And thank you to Allie Russell for setting that up. All right, I think it was Allie who set that up. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back. When we come back, Kendall Rogers. Kendall, how do you feel about Aggie baseball now? Are you a believer yet? I think I saw you on Twitter say not just yet, and I understand it. We'll talk about that on the other side. Let's talk about sponsor opportunities with the Association of Former Students. If your business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you should reach out to the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during these awesome events that are held throughout the year. I'm talking about marquee events like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, and The Gathering. All welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities to get your brand in front of those attendees. These events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. That includes title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, and activation, recognition, and social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. And we are back, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline. Kendall Rogers is joining us on the Buppies Catering Hotline. Kendall, good morning from D1 Baseball. Should have said that in the beginning. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing outstanding. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. So I assume you and I are in a similar place when it comes to Aggie baseball. I might be a little higher, but I'm not necessarily buying it just yet. I think, how did you phrase it over the weekend that maybe intrigued, but you still need to see a lot more before you think this team's turned the corner?
Yeah, I do. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I think the one thing we did learn about this team is there's a huge pride factor. I mean, I think anytime you go on the road and play anybody, but anytime you go on the road and play a team that you lost the national championship to and they run rule and no hit you in the series opener, that's a gut check. And you have two ways you can respond. You can either respond by playing horrible the rest of the weekend and throwing in the towel, or you go out there and do what you did in that doubleheader. And so that team chose option B, which was obviously the better option if you're an A&M fan. And so that was really impressive. I mean, I felt like Tennessee was shocked at that kind of performance. I think the Vols kind of thought that, after A&M played the way they did in the opener, that they would come out pretty flat in game 2 and game 3, and that was not the case. So on the positive, I mean, this team has a lot of fight. This team has a lot of fight left in it, and I think that's a really good thing. That's a good sign of I think, where the clubhouse mentality is for early in company right now. Now becomes the tough part, which is, establishing consistency. And, I'm still to be determined here, because here's the thing. I mean, there have been singular games for A&M over the past few weeks where you go, okay, this is the turning point. You thought Kentucky, after the first game when they came back, you were like, okay, this is it. And then the last 2 games, obviously, it was not it. So I think as you look ahead to South Carolina this weekend, let's just say they win 2 of 3 or they sweep. I'm not even looking at the wins and losses here. I'm looking at how they play. If they go this weekend, and let's say they take 2 or 3 or sweep South Carolina, and, it's ugly, they're nail biters, I'll probably look at it and go, okay, I still need to see a lot more. If they go out against South Carolina, even a team that's 2-10 in the league, and they just dominate them, kind of the way they did Tennessee in the last 2 games that they did against Sam, then I'm going, okay, I'm starting to believe in these guys a little bit more. So I think it's in the how they play and not necessarily the results right now.
If the schedule weren't as daunting, look, the SEC schedule is going to be ridiculous, but what's ahead after South Carolina, would it make it a little bit more stomachable and easier to believe, all right, maybe there is a chance?
I don't think so, man. I really do. I really don't. I think for me, it's just more like how they play in general. Because here's the thing: if they play to their ability, as we've seen the last 3 games, this is a team that no matter what's on the schedule, they can make it manageable. So, it's really interesting because if you look at where they are from a record standpoint, if they take 2 or 3, or you would like to try to sweep at home, let's just say, just for hypothetical purposes, they sweep this series, all of a sudden the math gets a lot easier. You've got Missouri at home. You got to feel like you're going to sweep that. You're sitting at 9 wins. You got to find 4 wins or 3 to 4 wins out of Arkansas, Texas, LSU, Georgia. All of a sudden that pathway to the NCAA tournament becomes a lot easier. So I think everything kind of takes care of itself if they play at the level they can play.
We're talking to Kendall Rogers here on TexAgs Live. Caden Sorrell, we knew with him back in the lineup, things would start to look better. I think he's been better than I expected out the jump, because I kind of thought it would take him some time to get going. And he's still not 100%, but he's looking great.
Yeah, the one thing I do like about Caden is that it feels like, the first couple of games that we saw him run to first base, it was kind of like, man, he's really toughing this out. Now I feel like when you watch him, it looks like he's a little bit more comfortable. So the good news is the more games he's played, it seems like the hamstring has gotten better and better. So that's a very good sign. I think the other great sign is that, I go back to, I think, when I was texting back and forth with Coach earlier this season, this was probably like the 2nd or 3rd week, is right after he got hurt. It was a couple weeks after he got hurt. And he's like, the frustrating thing about it is because when he gets in the cage, it's like, it's a show, like it's a power show. It's impressive. And so, you know, he was a guy that was, even when he was rehabbing, was still, you know, hitting, looking really impressive in the cage. And so I'm not sure the coaches are really surprised by it, but to see a guy who was on the shelf for essentially a month and a half, 2 months, go out there and do what he's doing is really impressive. And it's a testament to, you know, the hard work he's put in and the elite level of player. You know, I'm not ready to take this leap yet, but, you know, I was talking to a scout over the weekend that texted me, and they were like, hey, I'm not so sure that I don't like Caden Sorrell more than Jay Slavalette as a prospect, and which is really interesting. Like, I'm not ready to go to that level, but it is interesting. Like, it's one of the things that you look at for next year's draft, and, like, it doesn't look so crazy.
We're talking to Kendall Rogers here on TexAgs Live. Kendall, one of the things that I feel like I've done when looking at Aggie baseball is that I went from this, like, high, as we all were very high on them to start the season, to where I didn't know if a midweek game they could find a way to win those, right? Like from pitching to errors to not even getting enough offense, to now I feel like, look, I don't know if they're going to beat Tennessee, and they did. I don't know if they're going to beat Texas or Arkansas, but I kind of like their fight right now, and I'm not worried about the midweek games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm that level. I will say this. I am critical by nature just because that's kind of how the job is. But, like, I'll be very honest with you. I thought after that first game against Tennessee, I was thinking, like, dude, that's that might be their season right there. Like, that's pretty humiliating. But, I mean, what they've done since then, I mean, you go back to some of these midweek games, you know, HCU, Incarnate Word, they played really well in both of those games. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you're starting to see some things develop. You know, I feel like there are a couple of arms out of the bullpen that I feel like are starting to emerge a little bit. I even thought, you know, Caden Wilson, his stuff at the end of that Tennessee game the other day, I thought that was the best, like, the most electric stuff he has really shown all year. You know, I thought earlier this year he's one of those guys that seemed to be a little bit more timid. And then I think offensively, I mean, I think you're probably going to ask me about it eventually, but I mean, offensively, you know, as good as Sorrell has been, I think the biggest thing for this team, other than Sorrell, has been Bear Harrison. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, all of a sudden now with Bear Harrison taking the step that he has taken from an offensive standpoint, you can legitimately look at this lineup and go, like, other than maybe the bottom couple of guys, which, by the way, Ben Royo all of a sudden is starting to get some big hits. Like, this lineup is starting to take really impressive shape, and it is taking shape at the right time when you have the Hogs, Horns, Tigers, and Bulldogs coming up.
Talking to Kendall Rogers here on TexAgs Live. Kendall, any concerns with Ryan Brauninger, or it's Brauninger? He's gonna bounce back. He's had a couple of rough outings. What do you think about Brauninger and where he goes from here?
I actually do have some concerns. I feel like Ryan Brauninger is the type of guy, like, I'm not betting against him, you know, making corrections and getting back to normal. Like, he's just kind of that guy. Like, I'm a full believer in him. But I do think the stuff is down. I mean, I think, you know, the last couple of starts, I just feel like, you know, the breaking ball, the changeup hasn't been as sharp. You know, the fastball velocity. I want to say Bronny told me he touched 90 against Kentucky, but it sounded like he was like 87, 88 over the weekend at Tennessee. Like, the stuff just seems to be down a little bit. So I don't know if it's something that, you know, I don't know if it's one of those situations to where, you know, maybe he's a little, you know, tired, you know, I don't think he's hurt or anything, but, you know, there are corrections to be made. But if there's one guy that can do it, it's him. But, yeah, I definitely have some slight concerns right now about Brauninger. There's no doubt.
Kendall, Kansas has been quite the surprise this year, and I think you wrote over the weekend that you wouldn't be surprised if they find themselves hosting a regional.
Yeah, how about that? You know, the beautiful thing about college baseball this year is I feel like it's been as unpredictable as ever. I mean, you look at Kansas State being in the mix for a hosting site. Dan Fitzgerald's done a really good job at KU. John Coyne, who's a really good JUCO coach in the state of Texas, kind of runs point on his recruiting operations up there. And they've just done a really, really nice job in the transfer portal. So whether it's those guys, I mean, you look around the country right now. I mean, even Houston Christian, we mentioned a minute ago, Clay Vanderline's done a really nice job there. They're, the top team in the Southland. Remember back when everybody thought A&M was awful? Well, granted, they were playing pretty awful back then, but when everybody thought A&M was awful, when they played Cal Poly and lost one game to them, hey, Cal Poly's 12-0 in the Big West. They've got the number 17 RPI in the country. So it's just one of those things. that I feel like this is one of those seasons where, you know, the ball, the target is just kind of constantly moving. And that's not always the case.
Kendall, what about LSU? A&M's got them in a few weeks, but just that pitching staff, are you buying them?
I'm buying what they did against Oklahoma over the week. I mean, we'll see if they can string it together pretty consistently. I mean, the thing for LSU they were able to do against OU, and OU's offense, by the way, is scuffling right now. I think they scored 1 run last night against DVU at home, who had also been struggling. And OU scored, 2 or 3 runs in that whole series against LSU. But the thing that LSU was able to do in that series is they were able to kind of condense their staff. I mean, they only had to use Casey Evans, Zach Cowan, you know, and guys like that. They didn't have to go too deep in their bullpen, and because of that, they put up really good numbers on the mound. So I think the biggest thing with LSU is if you can get deeper into their bullpen, that's where they can be had a little bit. But if all they have to do is, you know, throw Anthony Ianson or Cade Anderson and then turn the game over to Zach Cowan or Casey Evans, it's ball game. And so that's going to be the big key for teams moving forward is can they run pitch counts up? Can they run those starters out and get a little deeper in the bullpen? Of course, in a couple of weeks when A&M faces them, that may not matter either because it sounds like they're going to get Gavin Guidry, who closed for them, back by that series. So, I mean, that's the one you're going to circle. I mean, that's going to be a big series. And I think the other thing, too, for early in these guys is just kind of harnessing the emotions over the next few weeks. You know, let's say you win the South Carolina series. You got to go play probably the number 1 team in the country, which, well, Arkansas does play at Georgia this weekend, so they may not be number 1. But, you know, potentially the number 1 team in the country in Arkansas. Then, oh, by the way, you got to go the next week and face Austin, Texas, who, by the way, could be number 1 going in that series. And then, you have LSU at home. So I think just kind of managing everything for early in company is going to be really interesting over the next 4 weeks. It won't be easy.
Well, Kendall, to go back to something you said at the top of the interview, if you are scoring from home, wins in the SEC to give A&M the best chance of making the postseason, how many wins is that? And again, it goes back to making this series so important for A&M to start stacking those wins together because they're not going to be easy after this.
No, you're right. I mean, right now, I think if they can get to 12 or 13, I think they would get in. Again, I mean, Cal Poly now is like considered a marquee series win. Like if you're committing, you're looking for, you know, bubble teams, that's a marquee series win. So let's just say you sweep South Carolina, you sweep Missouri, you're sitting at 9 wins. I think they can get 1 game from each of those remaining series, and I actually believe they'll take a series from one of those teams.
That would be huge, Kendall. Hey, man, appreciate your work. Thanks very much for joining us.
You got it, buddy. See ya.
See you, man. Kendall Rogers on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We will hit a break. When we come back, a final segment of Rambling. That and, of course, your text messages at 979-693-1150. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. They are locally owned and operated by Aggie alumni. They are awesome at what they do. They're going to get you the right car at the right price at the right time. Sounds like an Academy ad, but that's what they do there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They've got it all. They will find you the truck that you're looking for, the midsize vehicle, the SUV, you name it. They have it at great pricing and, of course, that customer service that I've been talking about for a very, very long time. They're going to make sure that you get complimentary pickup and delivery for all their service customers. And also, they have free oil changes for life. So you know how difficult it can be to go and wait in line and get the oil. They'll do it for you, and they'll take care of all the driving for you. Make the short drive to Caldwell to experience a car buying experience like never before. We're talking about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. And we're back. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to close out the show. We'll probably go to Kaylee in a second, but we're going to start things off with Nick Savage because he didn't know that I want to talk to him. But Nick, I want you to close out the show with some thoughts. What is something that you want us to chew on?
Would have put me on the spot there. Well, first of all, Henry Coleman's interview was awesome. I really enjoyed him, and I hope we can, go back to him next basketball season and catch up with him and just get his thoughts on Bucky and how everything's going. But other than that, what am I thinking? What are my thoughts to close out
close
here?
out the show.
You're really testing me here.
No,
and Kaylee finally gets to laugh at me for not having anything to say.
I said this to Kaylee. I thought it was funny. I go, because remember, you yelled out before I had to take a call from my mom, and you yelled out, Kaylee, you're going to do the interview with Kendall. And I said, what would you do if I walked away and Nick's like, I have to run the show. You're going to have to host the show, Kaylee. And she gave me a look. Show the people that you're looking.
It'd be interesting.
I think you do great. I believe in you. You know why? Because you're someone.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I do have a thought, actually, David. Okay. And going back to your question about Ryan Brauninger to Kendall Rogers, how much of that do you think it's just we've seen some of his starts, I guess, kind of tail off near the end, and he gets, a few runs tacked on here or there at the end of his outings. How much of that do you think was just Coach Early, just hey guys, no one in the back end of the bullpen has really proven themselves yet. We gotta lean on our ace. You know what I mean? He's our best bet, so we're gonna leave him out there.
Yeah, I think that plays a part of it. And I'm not worried about Ryan Brauninger.
Oh, I'm not either.
I felt like Kendall was a little more worried than he's gonna be fine. Let's not forget, 2 weeks ago, we're talking about all three of those guys. Look at this. If it wasn't for them, where we'd be. Brauninger's going to be fine, right? Tomorrow on the program, what do we usually have? We have Aaron Torres, right? We've got Esteban McGee. We've got Mark Weaver. We've got Garrett Chadwell. Who else we got? Nick, anybody else I'm forgetting? I'm sure we got somebody else.
Maybe working on a little bit of Masters talk. Did you say Mike Early? Mike Early.
Miguel Early. Yeah, I don't know why I gave him Spanish. We'll see you mañana. Thanks, guys.